Germany wanted Ukraine to crumble before Russia. An interesting thing about war is that it always gets pumped up by spicy, controversial comments from various notable personalities or celebrities worldwide. These keep the tension going, sometimes provoking more. The latest update is that Germany wanted Ukraine to crumble before Russia. Yes, you heard correctly. Berlin wanted Kyiv to fall apart if Russia sent soldiers into Ukraine. We're not the ones who are claiming this, of course. Can you guess who said this? If you think it's Putin, you'd be wrong. It's Boris Johnson, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. But why did he make such a comment? Is this even true? How did Germany respond to this? Hello and welcome to Viral Bits. Stick around till the end of the video, as we'll look for all the answers in the next couple of minutes. Boris Johnson had to resign in July after a slew of scandals damaged his reputation and led to the resignation of scores of his ministers. Boris Johnson, who is currently out of power due to such political instability, has made headlines, not for the controversy but rather for his terrible statements that have shocked Germany. Johnson might have revealed the true attitude of the European Union before Russia invaded Ukraine. Boris Johnson, a former British Prime Minister, has made several admissions. Diverse nations have quite different perspectives there, he asserts. There will be no question that the French remained in denial up until the very end. From the German point of view, it would be best for the situation to end soon in Ukraine's collapse, which would be a catastrophe. As you just heard, based on appearances, he noted that the largest economy in Europe, Germany, wanted Russia to completely engulf Ukraine. That's a sensational and significant claim. Boris Johnson, a former UK Foreign Secretary, also said that it's only Italy that first declared, due to its massive reliance on Russian hydrocarbons, it would be unable to support the EU stance on Ukraine. I couldn't entertain it. I thought that was a terrible way to look at it, he said. Johnson developed a close bond with the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, while in office and repeatedly denounced Russia's invasion. However, if one pays close attention, it appears that Berlin had a valid basis for having such a mindset. Germany's economy, which is the largest in Europe, had to suffer the most as a result of the sanctions against Russia. Energy costs skyrocketed. The rate of inflation has reached double digits and reached record highs. Businesses are closing their doors, and the economy is in complete disarray. You see, staying out of the conflict would have spared both them and the West. Yes, they are all troublesome. Berlin wasn't willing to give Ukraine its full support at first, until Chancellor Olaf Scholz changed his mind. It was selective in what it gave and what it did not give. According to Johnson, sensible economic arguments eventually had to give way to a purported demonstration of European togetherness. Germany is frequently seen as Ukraine's traditional ally in the European Union. That doesn't instantly address Ukraine's requests. Fair enough, despite some early hesitation, Berlin has evolved into one of Ukraine's primary arms suppliers, providing everything from tanks to missiles to armored cars. All of this was given to Kyiv by Germany to fend off the Russian invasion. The German government has pledged 1.2 billion euros since the end of January 2022, and it has continued to do so at the expense of its own needs. There is an additional reason why it could be hard not to accept Boris Johnson's assertions. The previous Ukrainian ambassador to Germany, Andriy Melnik, told a similar tale about Germany's mindset in March of this year. He claimed that before the invasion, German politicians had informed him that there was no use in offering assistance because they anticipated Ukraine to be defeated in 3 days. He wrote on Twitter, on February 14th, "We warn German lawmakers. A link between Kyiv and Washington may be established in the future. 12,000 anti-tank rockets from Germany are badly needed. Nothing but contempt in return. Such sadness and rage." Later, he asserted that the German finance minister, Christian Lindner, opposed arming Ukraine and cutting off Russia from SWIFT banking transactions. In an interview with Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, Melnik said that Lindner had smirked and said, "I think Ukraine will collapse within a few hours, and I'm ready to talk to a puppet regime that will be imposed by Russia." The charge was refuted by the German finance minister. Johnson, on the other hand, didn't stay in Germany. Additionally, he included Italy and France in the scandal. Again, heavily dependent on Russian hydrocarbons, they will eventually be unable to finance this, in his own words. One gets the impression that each member state of the EU wanted to protect its interests, as it ought to, but ultimately decided to uphold the spirit of European unification. They were forced to give up Russian energy, oil, and gas sources in the process. For larger countries like Italy, Germany, and France, it was a much more resounding success. These European countries have now retaliated fiercely against Boris Johnson for his comments. Germany has vehemently denied Boris Johnson's assertions that it advocated for Ukraine to secede rather than engage in a protracted conflict before Russia invaded that country. In an interview with CNN, Johnson further asserted that Italy, then under the leadership of Mario Draghi, declared it could not assist because it relied on Russian hydrocarbons, and that French President Emmanuel Macron was denying the invasion threat. Olaf Scholz's spokesperson refuted the allegations while poking fun at Johnson in a courteous manner. The person stated, "We are aware that the extremely funny former Prime Minister always has a special relationship with the truth. This situation is no exception." The German ambassador to the UK, Miguel Berger, supported the debunking of Johnson's story. Even before the invasion, a broadcast of Macron pleading with Vladimir Putin to meet with Joe Biden was shown. Johnson emphasized in his interview that EU countries eventually came together to defend Ukraine and were doing so steadfastly, but he claimed that wasn't always the case before the invasion in February. This was a major shock. Although other countries' perspectives varied, we could see Russian battalion tactical groupings forming, Johnson told CNN's Richard Quest in Portugal. The British policy was that the UK would support any Ukrainian resistance that was mounted once the invasion started. Johnson best articulated this position in a speech at the Munich Security Conference on the eve of the war. Britain was unsure about how the Ukrainian government and its commander, Volodymyr Zelensky, would respond once the invasion began, in part because British and U.S. intelligence had a difficult time persuading Zelensky that Russia's large force buildup was no hoax. Johnson's comments had the general theme that only the U.S. and Britain correctly assess Putin's objectives. In the interview, Johnson claimed that as soon as Russia began its invasion, sentiments in Europe immediately shifted. What occurred was that everyone realized there was just no other option, including Joe Biden and the Germans, French, and Italians, because Putin was impossible to negotiate with. The EU had done well since then in its opposition to Russia, he continued, calling it the main issue. After all my worries, I applaud how the EU has conducted itself. They have come together. The penalties were severe, Johnson continued. He went on to say that he believed Ukraine should join the EU and complimented Zelensky's bravery. But considering all the facts regarding the primary topic of this video, what do you think about Germany's stance? Did it want Ukraine to fall? What about the other European partners' justifications for originally refusing to help Ukraine? Please tell us in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. To get more amazing viral content like this, hurry up and subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notifications bell so you can stay up to date with all our future activities. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, peace.